Hi there, my name is Kendrick, and today I get to interview Jane. So Jane, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So Jane, can you please tell us your full type?
Yes. I am an ISFJ jumper. Um, feminine, so FM, SITI, sleep, blast, play, consume, and social type number 3.
All right, awesome. So what did you think and how did you feel when you got your typing results back?
So first off, I thought that I must be fairly hard to type, although I think probably everyone is because this system is adapts to complexity. But I I thought it was pretty close to what I had guessed, which surprised me. And then I was most surprised by being TI instead of TE. And I had to begin to process, whoa. And also, I didn't really know I was consumed last. So I felt like, so it's right away I had a challenge. Let's figure this out. Oops, you got muted. Hi.
So you said that you guessed pretty close to the type that you got. So what type did you think you were?
I guessed SIFI as opposed to SITI. And so I had a good story for TEFI. And now I'm figuring out, okay, well, what does TIFE mean? I had a good story for why I wasn't FE, and I never considered TI. So apparently, because I'm an extrovert, with the stack of animals, my TI could appear TE to people. And I have double activated masculine FE, which so there is more decider feeling, I guess.
Yeah, I totally understand that because I think my mom is the same type as you, except double masculine. Um,
Uh-huh.
so
Yeah.
I totally see like that the fake TE, but like if you
Hmm.
really look at it carefully, it's not T, it's TI.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so because he doesn't have like that, it works for my mom, but doesn't really work for anyone else, kind of thing happening.
Right.
So,
Yes.
um, but anyhow, so my first question to you actually is very interesting because of your sexual modality. So because you're FM, you're
Hmm.
visual, that would make your sleep animal double feminine.
Hmm.
So you have double feminine, um, ST sleep.
Hmm.
So that's a very interesting first animal because that would mean that you're gonna be very forgetful when it comes to the details, even though you're obsessed with the details, which is kind of like
Yes.
a contradiction. So how do you navigate that? How do you feel about having that
Yes.
a
Well,
specific
I think
animal?
that's one reason why I thought I was an NT for a long time, aside from the fact that the MBTI leads you to prefer that, but is that I thought, oh, well, I'm better at theory and I'm better at overview and I'm better at concepts. And then we have to also bring in the consume last, which is I really don't care if I put out errors. I'm so blast that, oh, well, I'll figure that out later and it doesn't really matter because it's the overview. Um,
Yeah, and your
mhm.
TI is feminine, so that means the truth is flexible. So it's kind of
Mhm,
funny in that case.
mhm.
So it feels
There's so
very
many
TI like,
contradictions. Yeah,
yeah. Um,
yeah.
and then later on I'll ask you about this, but your
Mhm,
your play is double masculine. So
mhm.
that's also that's why you would feel very intuitive because your
Yeah,
NF is double masculine, right?
yeah,
So
yeah. So it's stronger.
for sure. Well, we'll cover that shortly. I want to finish up the ST sleep first because
Yes.
there's different dimensions to it. The first one I want to talk to you about is the SITI health routine part of it. Okay, so I did an interview with an ENTP with Save Your Sleep before, and when I asked him what ST sleep was, he said it was a body that works, which makes perfect sense, right? Because then if you have like
Mhm,
all those health routine, then your body would
mhm,
work optimally. And then the new guy
mhm.
that they just hired, Brian Johnson, he's a lead ST also, and he's obsessed with like having a body that works, and he tracks
Mhm.
all the measurements and stuff as ST clear as possible. Yours is
Yeah.
double feminine though, so I want to
Yep.
hear what your version of this is. Like, what
Mhm.
is your exercise routine like? What's your uh nutritional routine like? Sleep routine and mental health routine. Like what do those
Mhm.
look like for you?
Mhm. Yeah. So again, we have to think about this in the context of consume last. So I really can come up with plans, but not necessarily follow through with them, because what will happen is I'll think, but there's all these things on the list that need to happen before I care for me. And I will get other people to care for me. So part of my routine is this sly manipulation of, can you do my consume? Um, I think that my SI, how I really became kind of accustomed to it, was um, awareness of body sensations. So not necessarily attending to them, but I can't ignore them. And honestly, I am a bit of a Debbie Downer. I whine. I have since very young. So I think the feminine thing makes it to where um, I don't think is important enough to take care of. Like I would love to. I make charts, I make graphs, I make health planners, and I'd love to meet a double masculine SITI and see if they're better at it than me. Does that make sense? I don't know.
It does, but
Mm.
I don't necessarily think someone that has double masculine SITI would be better at you at that, because
Okay.
the Brian Johnson guy who's obsessed over this has double feminine ST like you do. So, and he's
Oh
really
yes.
good at this.
Okay.
So it doesn't
Yeah.
mean you,
So then I think it's the consume. I don't know. Yeah.
it that could be it, because he's savior consume. So that could be
Yeah.
as well.
You did mention sleep, and my sleep is perfect. I've only had insomnia one time in my life. It's like I've trained myself to, when I hit the bed, it's associated only with sleep. And I have shifted to be a little bit of a later go to bed, but I still get up on time and do everything. So that I treat people and help people with sleep, but I'm kind of like, I don't really understand why sleep can't just do that. It's and mental health wise, I don't know that I have a routine about it, but I love to fake consume in service of my blast and collect mental health information and organize it.
So you're organizing it really. You're not really consuming it.
I
Um,
might give it to somebody else. I
yeah,
give people advice, and I think, wow, I should probably do that too.
that's so good. I love it. That's so funny. Um, I love the honesty too. I appreciate it. So you said earlier that you do whine. And David Shan did say that number threes tend to be complaint machines. Can
Oh,
you share a little bit about that aspect of it, like the whining and whatnot? It's not something that you see. The fact that you brought it up means like you see
yeah.
yourself doing it. And
Oh, I'm totally aware of it. Yeah.
what do you want to what do you want out of, like, what's the are you just doing it
The growth.
to FE to just
Oh,
get it out of your system, like emotionally, when you do like the
no,
whining?
actually, I think the pattern that I'm beginning to see with the TI feminine and the masculine FE is my identity is movable, and therefore if my intelligence is questioned, because that's the ST, I think, my masculine FE will lash out. I can either have a little cry fit and run away, or I'm not. Dave was telling me that sleep last play, you can't beat them in an argument, and it's true. I will find a way to crush the person because they hurt my feelings, which that's not very fair. Like, or the other way that I'm trying to figure out masculine FE is that I see it as the playground monitor of like, now you kids be nice to each other because that's not acceptable. Um, I don't know if that diverges from the original question though, but yeah.
I think you can't beat sleep last, play, consume in an argument unless you actually know about the consume last thing, and then from there it's
Then
not
you
as
can
bad.
expose the Ty Lopez in them.
Yeah, exactly. Like with my mom, for
Yeah,
example, she's consumed last, right? And
yeah.
before, like, you can't argue with her, but then since I learned that she was consumed last, I actually just bring it up to her. So she'll fight with me about something, and I'll be like, "Where'd you get that information? Can you cite it for me?" And then there's like nothing, and she's like, like,
Yeah,
and then like, and then I'm like, "I bet you didn't read," and she looks like guilty, and I'm like, "Okay."
yeah,
So it's like,
right.
but it's hard because most people don't know about OPS, they don't know about the code, they don't know, like, oh,
Yeah, the
that's their like
subtleties.
Achilles heel right there. It's just call them out. Like,
Mhm.
did you do any
Yes,
research on that?
yes.
Um,
Well, the other thing about my last consume last that somebody brought to my attention is I steal other people's consume, not to like plagiarize, but to it's the yearning to consolidate. It's
Yeah.
sort of like, well, I'm going to look at all these authors and what they've said. Like, I love those types of articles that summarize other people's articles because they're consuming other people's consume and they're making it, shorter and useful. That's the other piece is that I want whatever I'm working on to be useful to somebody. Um, and that isn't always successful, but
You know what? I've actually seen that in action because I a while ago I did a panel interview, I think it was last year, with all the EJs, and the ESFJ girl, her name is Julia, she was helping the ENFJ about some kind of tech issue that she was having. And the ENFJ girl, she was consumed last. After she helped her with her tech issue, someone else came in, another EJ, right? And that EJ was having a problem. The consume last EJ went and helped that person with whatever she just learned in a moment. And then the
funny when
ESFJ
you give it
lady
to
was like,
someone.
she was like, the ESFJ, yeah, like Julia was like, hell yeah, I taught you that. Like, and you act
Just
like you're an
learn
expert.
that.
You act like you're an expert on this topic already. It's so funny. So yeah, I mean, that's why I think Dave said that you guys are super goofy too, like the sleep last play consume. Like you guys want to have fun at the end of the day, So,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I think that's like a
yeah,
superpower for sure.
yeah.
Um, I want to ask you about the ST again. So part of
Yes.
ST is also competence, right? That means your identity is tied to competence. However, yours is double feminine. So do you feel like if your competence gets attacked, do you feel like it's like a personal attack, or do you feel like because it's so movable that you're not likely to get as offended if someone were to,
That's the first. I think I'm very it's so I've been typed in so many systems and this is the first one that I feel like is going to actually help me grow because it so busted me on I don't want criticism from other people because I'm criticizing myself enough, but then I also don't want fake compliments from other people. So there's sort of this wall of don't say anything about me, but then I'm whining, nobody listens to me and nobody understands me. So it's like this loop
right?
that's and I my goal is to start working on giving myself permission to consume for me, to take care of me,
Right.
and then also to be have better emotional boundaries around other people's comments about my identity. Like I turn 58 tomorrow. I think I should probably get over this.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah. So thank you for the birthday present. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Um, let's go over to the next animal now. This is the big
yeah.
one here. Double activated SF blast. Um,
Mhm.
and there's like the masculine FE there. So there's gonna be
Yeah.
like, but you're self above tribe, so it's gonna be a little bit different from like the pure blood ISFJs.
Yeah.
Um, so SF blast is used to correct behavior. That's one aspect of
Mhm.
it, right? And
Mhm.
there's also some good aspect of it too. So let's start with the more naggy aspect of it, which is
Mhm.
the behavior correction. So do you see
Mhm.
yourself kind of going up to people, telling them to behave a certain way if they're out of line, and do you have
I
like a
certainly think it. I in my profession, I have to decide when to say it when it's requested and the person really wants to make a change. Unless you're in my family, in which case I probably am going to uh correct people more than is kind. But it's really actually that happens more with I think the TI. If anyone's asking me something about the computer, um, I'm not an expert, but I have the ways I do it. And if I see someone do something else and I know it's not going to work, I cannot hide that. So there's this sort of arrogant, very hard for me to teach people something I've already perfected. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Why are you doing it that way? That doesn't make sense. And so the blast though is where I'm being an ISFJ. It is still the classic nurse caregiver. I work in mental health. It's like um I made this connection earlier today, which is that I think so anything I experience, I want to learn from and then turn it into a lesson that I can help someone else avoid suffering or find insight or so it is in the service of humanity. So in a way, I'm confused as to, yeah, I'm tribe over self, and then I'm also have this really strong DE. Even though it's third, like the jumper thing complicates it so much.
Right. No, it does for sure. You're self above
Yeah.
tribe, but then you're double activated DE. So
Yeah.
I think it just means you're right smack dab in the middle. Like it's almost
Yeah.
like 49-51. So it's
Yes.
really good. That means you're really balanced in that sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because then you would cause more problems for other people with the consume last than the actual like the other stuff, right?
Yeah.
Uh okay. So I do want to ask you something about the FE part. So with extrovert feeling, um you said that you want to ease suffering from people, but sometimes suffering is good because then that helps them grow to the next level. So how do you distinguish when that suffering is something that is valid and that they should experience to help them grow as a person versus
Right.
like this suffering is unnecessary and it should be
Yes.
alleviated? How do you distinguish that?
Yes. Well, so I'm only guessing because I'm just formulating my understanding of FE, but I think that my masculine FE would potentially, I do not like to rescue people. So even though I'm in a helping profession, it's better if the person comes to their own awareness. So my going in and, correcting behavior, it's timing when the person actually might benefit from it, where we are sort of facing the same problem rather than me um, you know, being an expert at someone, right? I like to be another human on a journey that can connect with someone, with really deep compassion. Um, so not enabling, but also not pushing before the person's kind of right at the moment where they could potentially learn from their suffering by taking accountability or feeling more empowered. That sounded like a Hallmark card.
It sounded like double deciding. Um,
Uh-huh.
yeah, it
Uh-huh.
sounded very double deciding. So I think that's
Hmm.
that's just you seeing the TI, the TI truth
Yeah.
versus like easing
Yeah.
suffering, and then it's like a
Yeah.
fine balance of
Yes.
which one will help this person best.
Right.
Are you do you work as a psychologist or a counselor or?
I'm a licensed clinical social worker, so I'm a mental health therapist. Yeah,
Oh,
I
gotcha.
have been
Okay.
for 30 years.
Oh,
So
that's cool.
yeah,
You stayed
yeah,
in your box, say your IJ box.
yeah, yes, yes.
I do want to ask you about that. Slightly deviating to your social type. So you're number three, and number three is a specialist. So this is your specialization essentially.
Mhm.
Um, and you're an IJ, so this is like a straight flush where like you're an
Yeah,
IJ and then you have a box. Because some people are IJs, but they're number two. Then you're weird because then you don't
right,
you have a box, but you want to leave your box, so it's weird, right?
right. No,
Um,
it works.
yeah. So how do you feel about like stepping outside that box? Like, what's the feeling of stepping outside that box versus when you are honed in, focused on that just one thing and just really mastering your
Yeah,
craft? Like,
yeah. Well, so I was thinking about the NEFE and that think of SITI as like this bucket, and I go to this wide spectrum of water of emotions and values and people's intuition and possibilities. And I go play and I get a little bit of it, but I don't swim in it, right? My animal emoticon is the beaver. So I'm living on the land, but I go and then, so there are things that people don't know about me off the bat. Like I look really straight laced, but I have 13 tattoos. Um, I've got a lot of NF play that's happened in my life, a lot. Because that's my third animal, I think, right? Yeah.
yeah,
Um, yeah,
yeah, that's your hobby animal, and
yeah,
that's what you do on your spare time is
yeah.
play with.
I've also studied astrology since I was 15. And I've always had tarot cards but then there's been a period of time where I was like born again Christian, but mostly on the left, like mystical end. And I'm very interested in aliens, just like Dave. Don't tell most people that.
Yeah.
Um, so those are the ways I mentally leave the box, I suppose. And I have traveled a lot. So
Do you travel by yourself or do you travel with others?
I've done both. I've done both. My father was a Swiss citizen, so I've been over Switzerland and Europe quite a bit. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. That's cool. So you're half Swiss and half something else.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go over the play since you've already brought it up. Double masculine NF play. So this is people can always see their double masculine animal, no matter what the position is, from what
Mm-hmm.
I've seen based on people I've interviewed. Even
Yeah.
myself with the double masculine sleep last, it's last, but I can see it because it's double masculine.
Yeah, I noticed you
Um,
have feminine and then yeah.
yeah, so it's really good to have it in your demon position, because then you can see it and you can use it, as opposed to just being a complete blind spot that like smacks you in the face
Yeah.
later on when you have
Right.
neglected it long enough, right? So
Yeah.
your NF play, let's go over the different parts of it. So the first one is just the playful side of it. So because NF is all about the vibe and like how the tribe feels and like emotionally and stuff. Yours in a play position. Do you find that when you're hanging out with friends and you're just like having fun, do you make fun of their vibe a little bit, of the way they come across, and do you poke fun at them a little bit in that sense? It's like it's more
Good.
friendly though because it has FE, but it's like, do you kind of,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I as a three, I've never really had a ton of friends. If I'm in a social group, I can be friendly. But so I was in an interview with Ian. I was kvetching about having really poor skills at small talk, and he was like, "I don't buy it. I think everybody has a different type of small talk. So I probably have an NF small talk, right? It's going to be about uh has to be about either feelings or values or culture, movies, art, music, the NF kind of I was raised by hippies, so my family culture is also kind of NF, even though that's
Right.
not the only place that gets um yeah.
You're double masculine hippie.
Yeah.
Um, so um with that being said, because you do have NF play, when you have conversations with people, do you like having those back and forth conversation about what's your meaning in life, what's your purpose in life, what goal you're doing, what are you up to? Just trying
Mhm.
to have that back and forth to see like what you're up to
Yeah.
essentially. Like, do you find that fascinating, and really when you talk to people, that's kind of what you want to get out of the conversation?
Well, so most of I mean, 30 hours a week, I'm having therapy
Yeah.
conversations. So I think my life has sacrificed social for my specialization. And so, NF is in that context. I thought I was NT play. So what my mind said about that was, I like to talk about, how do you think? How do I think? How do you think? How do I think? Oh, that concept is so interesting. What about this possibility? What about that? And I was thinking about, maybe it's a relief from my SI or my ST. Is it's like, oh, everything has to be so orderly, and now let's relax it and think about, more and more. What are the dimensions of the world? Are there invisible aliens? Um, and it's just playful, I guess. I'm still figuring this out though. I mean, I'll have to learn more about my functions and type now that I have been typed.
Yeah, don't worry about it. It's fine. Don't worry. You just got hype, and
Yeah,
uh, you're not gonna know all the parts yet.
yeah,
So
yeah,
don't worry about it. I just want to see how you see it from your perspective,
yeah.
as opposed to like what's you know, the actual terminology. So,
Right.
with that being said, though, you brought up the fact that you have demon friends because you're number three and you sacrifice socializing in favor of your career. Um, but because David Chan said that number threes almost feels like friends last because it's in a hobby position. It because like
Mhm,
the number ones, they do want friends, but they just will get rid of them if it gets in the way of being the best.
mhm.
But as long as it doesn't get away in being the best, they do want
Yeah,
friends. It's a weird thing.
yeah.
But you have it in a hobby position. So I've seen number threes that do have lots of friends, even though they're like demon friends.
Mhm,
And I've seen number threes with no friends. So it's like number three seems to have the most extreme
mm,
when it comes to friendship. So
yeah,
you said you don't have very many friends, but it also means you might have some friends. Um, what's your relationship like with friendship, like growing
yeah.
up when you were young, let's say in your teens and college, and
Mhm,
and
mhm.
then and then did you find yourself deviating away from friendship as you got older, or is it something that you seek more now
Right.
as you're getting older as well? Like, how do you see
Good
yourself?
question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm the type of person that always had a best friend. I really liked, um, someone that we knew each other very well and had a lot in common. And that's pretty much always been through my life, and often I'm in my second marriage, often it's my husband, because that's efficient. I just live
Right.
with my best friend. Um, I also, the other context of friendship has been I've been in 12-step programs um, from 19 until recently. I haven't had as much time recently because I'm working the most hours that I've ever worked, and the pandemic threw things off in terms of friendships, I think, for many people. So I'm getting the itch to like get on meetups or go find some, social group. I also moved, so there were some barriers, but it's not top priority. And I do have a couple best friends. Yeah.
So it's like it's there, and when you get around to it, you'll participate in it. But if it doesn't,
Mhm.
then it doesn't bother you
Yeah.
that much.
Yeah.
I see. I guess that's the difference between like people with savior friends. Because for me,
Yeah.
I always have it in the back of my head. Like for me, I know for a fact that if you want to maintain friendship, you need to see that person at least once a year. Um,
Yeah.
so I have friends that I only see once a year, and to me, I make it a priority. Like, okay, if it's like getting close to the end of the year, I still haven't seen that person yet, then I'm gonna go out of my way to go see that person.
Mhm.
Especially if I value the friendship. If I don't value the friendship, I don't
Yeah.
care, obviously. But
Right.
like, but
Yeah.
someone with savior friends, that's kind of how
Mhm.
I would approach that. And I do see it too with my friends who are savior friends. If they haven't
Yeah.
seen me in a while, they'll message me. It's like, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. Let's
Yeah.
can we make a plan? And I'm like, sure, because I'm
Mhm.
also savior friends. Awesome, let's do it, right?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
um, so it's interesting to see from you guys like the number threes and number ones where you're like, whatever, like,
Right.
yeah.
Mhm.
um, but I'm also wondering though, because like I from a psychological standpoint that as humans we do derive a lot of happiness from socializing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, and then when you get to a time in your life when you do retire from working, um,
Mhm.
what are you gonna do with your time then? Because that's gonna be
Yeah.
a huge open void. Is that the time for you to go back to making friends again, or are you like having
My thought is probably volunteering. So my husband is also in 12 step, and when we were most happy is we were running the gratitude banquet, which is this event that happens every year, and he's a chef, and I'm very organized, so it was like, yeah, we just that's something we do together, right? We like to do a project that uses both of our skills. I also, I think we'll be free to travel and stuff. But when you're saying about like the frequency of and maintaining a friendship, it's interesting. My two best friends are also therapists, and one of them, we have a phone call once a month. We schedule it, it's an hour. I have a clock for an hour because you're doing sessions for an hour. And so it's almost like we're doing mutual therapy. We don't call it that. The other one is a friend where, since it's my birthday tomorrow, she's taking me to movies, probably dinner, and I do that for her in the spring. And that's pretty much when and we went to college together. So um, that's just the frequency thing. It's very organized and ST, I guess.
and
Um,
do you like it that way? You're like it's perfect. You like you see each other for your birthdays and stuff, and it's perfect and it's nice.
I could probably see her more. I think we both have, I bet she's a number three, and we both have like super busy, and one of us would have to say, I miss you. I don't think either of us say that to people like I don't know why, but you know, I really want her boyfriend to meet my husband, and that just never happens. Like I would love for us to have another couple as friends. Um, that would be cool. That might be a goal for when I retire. My
Right.
husband's already retired, and it's like I have another decade. It's not fair.
Well, how do you feel about retirement? Because you're number three. That means you actually like working in your box. So wouldn't
Mhm.
you feel like there's like a void in your life after you retire, or is that something that you still want to pursue on a more part-time basis?
Yes. I mean, so right now I have to finish up a couple years to be vested at this particular job, and then I want to lower my hours and pick up some hobby. I've always had a side hustle. Currently, I don't have time for it, but something that long time ago was desktop publishing. Back when we probably don't even use that phrase anymore. Something that Dave was saying as a tangent about consume last is not updating things like and also I have special interests. So I could get back into some of my special interests. Like I'll pick one at a time. Like for a while it was jewelry making, or then it was, I'm going to learn everything about tie dye, or, so I'm always doing something, and I'm sure I will find things where I want to break out of my IJ box a little bit, because there's a very prescribed thing that happens over and over and over again with how treatment works with a client. And I'd rather go into coaching, because it's such a different feeling. You can be more directive. The person's a little bit more invested in measurable goals. It's just a different, like it just seems like it would be more fun. And then the last thing is that um, I've begun to specialize in people with dissociative identity disorder, and I'd like to go into private practice and just see that type of client. I've never specialized in what type of client. I've seen anybody who comes to my caseload. So it's working upon working.
It sounds like you want to specialize within a specialization. Yeah. So let's talk about consume last, since you brought it up already about, not updating,
Yeah.
when it comes to consuming what's current right now, just to make sure you're up to date and you don't become obsolete. I think a lot of people will consume last, especially with I feel like this is especially true for you guys with ST sleep.
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know, and you tell me if this is true or not. Is there a fear that you become obsolete as a result of not updating your current knowledge and skill set, and making sure that it's up to par with what's the standards for today?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's why I consume other people's consume. Like I don't have the energy to go into depth, but I'll sort of test the waters of what's out there in the literature. And it's more in a demon state. It's like anxious, oh, what if I miss something? And then I have one client that's also a therapist, and she'll challenge me. Well, haven't you read the latest thing? And I'm like, no way. I'm not telling you that. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah.
That must be fun. Seeing someone that's already like a professional in this area. Do you, so that
not really.
You use, I understand. Yeah, I get it.
I know you mean.
So you use your play to gather information, then you get it from other people, essentially.
Yeah.
That's what you mean by consuming someone else's consume. So you just get to tell you. Yeah. My mom does that to me all the time. She comes up to me, she's like, just can you tell me what's going on? Because she doesn't want to research it, right?
Yes.
Like,
I don't watch the news, and I tell my husband, you just tell me if something bad. So like, I know there's the war. I know Trump's about to dodge another bullet, probably, but I'm like, he consumes the news. And I'm like, I'm not watching any of it. I never saw one image of the towers go down. I refused. So but my mom's the one that called me and said, by the way, there's this terrible thing.
Well, I guess as long as you have enough connections with the tribe, you'll be okay to some extent. Like, I guess for a consume last, if it's like bad enough, you'll hear about it, someone will tell you. So okay, let's go over your type of consume, though. Your consume is NT. So NT is problem solving. And that means if it's in a consume position, you would look for, technically, if you were not consume last, you would look for the solution through research, right? So let's say you're trying to solve something, you get stumped, then you go, hit the books, watch some videos, or do some other form of research to find a solution. So how do you do your NT then if you're not doing a deep dive research on multiple different new topics? Because part of consume is new, right?
Right.
If you're going over,
I do a lot of research through stuff I already know, like through, like, for instance, astrology. Like, I have read so many books, and I see it's hard for me. I think, it's hard for us to admit our demon, because I could peacock it. Like, this is an example that might fit your question, which is that, so one problem for therapists is we have to write progress notes. Well, I hate to write progress notes, because in a sense, that's consolidating what happened, and for myself, writing a summary so I'll remember for the next time. So what I'll end up doing, instead of writing my notes, is I'll go make a spreadsheet, the newest and latest spreadsheet of, here's how I could really simplify it. but it doesn't ever work. It's spending all this time diverting me from actually solving the problem. I'm spinning. So I think I'm doing it's like a 5-year-old trying to do it. Does that make sense? It's a little
It makes sense because you're sleep blast, so the spinning the wheels thing makes sense because
mhm,
you can only work what's already inside the ecosystem. Um,
yeah,
and you're puzzling the block, but maybe you're missing a piece and it's not
yeah,
inside the box. So
yeah,
that would
mhm,
be the downfall of
yeah,
that. I think it's good in a sense where you are perfecting what you already have and
mhm,
you're kind of more self-sufficient because you don't need anything new.
mhm,
But the downside is the missing piece might not be inside where you're looking. So
yeah,
you need to pull it out. And if you're lucky, you have the tribe
mhm,
member give it to you. So sometimes that's good
mhm,
enough, right? But
mhm,
the bad thing is, what if that
yeah,
tribe member doesn't know what they're talking about? So they just give you the wrong information. So that could also be the
mhm,
downfall.
yeah,
I did interview some ENTPs that were play last, and
that's weird.
one of the things that the guy said to me was,
No
how
offense.
can you trust what other people say to you? I have to do the research myself because I don't trust what they have to say. So it's like the opposite for you, where like I trust what the people have to say enough,
Mhm,
but then
mhm,
they might not be a credible source.
mhm,
You know, um,
yeah.
so for this, so that would be like
It's
the
a real blind spot for me, I think. I think in the sense of like, I'm pretty gullible. I don't want to be, but I think I can be pretty gullible. For instance, it took me years to realize that clients lie in therapy. Why would you lie in therapy? And it's not that they're being malicious, it's that they don't want to be seen poorly. Or um I had another example, but it left.
I have a client at work because I work on the side as a personal trainer, and
Yeah.
my client's a psychologist, and he tells me that a lot of the type A personality, like the really go-getter CEO
Yeah.
type, makes lots of money. When they see him for therapy and then he's trying to get to the root cause of their problem or trying to really understand them, they run away. And
Mhm.
and I feel like that's like the fear of vulnerability and getting to really know. They're looking for a solution,
Yeah.
but then you can't find a solution unless the person knows you, right? The therapist.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
think that's when you said that the client will lie to you, it's probably something along those
Mhm.
lines where
Right,
right.
right.
Um,
Yeah.
with that being said, though, I want to go back to your consume. So part of consume is external self-awareness, and it's kind of like becoming a ghost, coming out of your body, seeing yourself from a third-person perspective. A lot of consume last people don't see themselves. That's why Dave always says, "Oh, I don't know what I'm dressed. I don't know what I'm wearing," because he doesn't see himself. Do you have trouble with that as well, where you don't know how you come across externally as a result, or is it because you're
I'm afraid of that. I'm afraid of that, because of the flexible identity, but, um, I would so I would have, kinesthetic awareness lowest, so I can walk through a room and not know where my body is in space and hit a table and get a bruise, that type of thing, but, because I'm so visual, one thing I realized years ago is in my mind, I can walk around and see the back of my body. I have a model of how my head exactly what my head shape is that I can see. I also got really great grades in school when they did the aptitude test about like, can you visual spatial relations in my head? But I have no depth perception. I cannot parallel park. I don't know. Um, I checked the mirrors, but I could get. I've never been in an accident, but so it's a weird thing of like having this great visual spatial relations, but not in space, not in the actual external world. It's weird.
Yeah, that is really weird. And I also wanted to ask you about that because um you're visual, right? So in a way you would care about your and high flex. So you would care about how you present yourself. Um so that means you do look in the mirror then to make sure that everything looks right. Is that true or no? Am I wrong?
Oh, yes. I mean, one of my side things has always been an interest in fashion, appearance, makeup, and things like that. But I'm sort of like, if you ever watch runway shows about like Project Runway and stuff, there are some fashion designers who look great, and there are some that just look a mess, but they still have a visual product they can put out there.
Right.
So I think I kind of vacillate in a feminine way between sometimes I'm okay with my appearance, and I have some body dysmorphia and some reasons why I'm not always happy with the product, but I'm so extremely visual. I know some people probably peacock that, but one of the ways that I know that is if my husband and I are watching a show and we both notice or recognize an actor, I will see their face and tell them what thing they've been in. I don't know their name. He'll recognize their voice and say, I know I've seen them and recognize them somewhere else. That kind of a thing. But
Oh, so your husband's auditory then?
I think so. He's gonna get typed.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
I'd love to interview him if he wants.
Of course.
And anyway, so earlier you said that kinesthetic is one of your poorest sexual, I guess your
Yeah.
way of navigating the world. And what about audio? Because you're visual, so that means the opposite would be audio. How do you feel about audio?
Right. Well, I've always been puzzled by people who are like, I like my music on vinyl instead of cassette or whatever. And I'm like, I don't care. And then I'm very interested in the lyrics and the concepts. I recently discovered Sting's daughter, Elliot Sumner, who's a bassist, who's actually non-binary. And I'm in my 50s and I just started to notice what the bass line is in music.
Oh, interesting.
Like, I knew there was that instrument, but I didn't. So I'm just not picky or that aware. I'm overly sensitive to sound. I can't sleep if there's a clock that goes tick, 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 tick. But I'm not an aficionado about quality of sound.
I've always found it strange that a lot of visuals are singers. Because that's an audio thing, right? Like Adele, for example, or Taylor Swift, right? So so I don't know. Based on your description, it sounds like it's harder for you guys to kind of pick up the fine details of sounds, but then there's these people that are doing this professionally in their visual, so it's kind of interesting.
Well, Taylor Swift is very I can see the visual around conceptual. Like her songs have gimmicks, her songs have FI 12-year-old girls are gonna love it. Sorry to any Taylor Swift fans. Do you see what I'm saying? So her music is still feminine. The FM part of not being super specific. So I don't know. I mean, it's not like we have one sense modality and we don't have the others at all. But you're right. There is that extreme of audio shouldn't be. Taylor's not an opera singer.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
So
it's a pop star. So
yeah.
But I think David Chan did say that there's exception to the rule, and there's people that can use all four, which is ridiculous, which is BS.
Yes.
Absolutely BS. And life is not fair. And some people are good at everything. So so that could be a case of that.
Yeah.
It's just that.
Or there's synesthesia. Billie Eilish has synesthesia. I don't know what her sexual modalities are, but where a number has a color and a sound has a smell. These odd.
Oh yeah, she's double masculine. She's double masculine.
Okay, she's kinesthetic then, right?
She's double masculine ISTP. Yeah. Very rare, and there's not many ISTP females, so that's.
I know.
Yeah. She comes across as very ENFJ like, which makes sense because same functions, just different order, right?
Yeah.
But that's definitely interesting to see.
She captivated the world, though. Even you can debate what her range of talent is, but she has something. Anyway,
you must do something right if you're that famous, right? So
yeah.
All right. I think I've asked you all the question already. I can't think of anything I haven't asked yet. So we're gonna end this interview pretty soon. The last two things I'm gonna ask you. The first one is is there something that you want people to know about you now that you've got a chance to talk to me and stuff? And, something that you want to know about people, that you want people to know about your type or yourself personally?
Yeah, yeah. I think that sleep might be hard to see, The feedback I was getting was seeing the blast more, and sleep is not visible. It's something internal. So to be careful about typing that, like to not write off sleep if there isn't you know, I can be quite mopey, but I can also be, so it's weird to have your animal stack be extroverted when you're asleep. That's going to throw people off, right? Um, those contradictions. Um, and, I think I shared earlier that my goal is to reconcile the um, very vulnerable identity with holding on, the TI that's feminine and wanting to be seen as smart. And then if that's attacked at all, being, kind of sissy Hulk mean that I don't want to be that way and I don't want to be seen as, and yet I also own it. I want to be at peace with, and I think all of us are struggling with, okay, here's our saviors that we're addicted to, and here's our demons that are causing trouble, and I want to get more balanced. And I think that's what should happen as you get to this phase of my life. You know, if I stay exactly in the traps of my personality for the next 20 years, I'm gonna be pretty bummed.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it always feels the most rewarding when you're using your last animal. Like that's when the feeling of like, wow, this feels like
yeah,
there's like a sense of satisfaction.
right,
There's no
yeah,
satisfaction using your
right.
first animal.
I did
Uh,
have an example of that in my life, that I would like to do again, and that is, so I've been in 12 step, and some of that has been related to food, and I think food can be related to consume last, which is in one particular program I was attending, it was required that we plan our food out and that we prep our food on the weekend. So I was forced to consume in service of self. And that was the healthiest I've ever been around food. It felt like really rigid, but it was also, I was single at the time. And so there was no one else I could get to do my consume for me. And I was committing to someone else my sponsor, that I would do it. And it felt like really being a grown up. And it was hard, so hard to not, who can I get to like make my food for me? Does that fit for consume last? Do you follow what I'm saying?
Consume last, it's a demon, so the demon can manifest in a lot of different ways. So in your case, it manifests in that way. I have a friend, he's an ISTJ. I think he's a sleep last play consume like you. I think he's double masculine. He's been hospitalized several times for overeating because he doesn't watch what he eats because of the
Yeah,
demon consume, right?
right.
So
Yeah, so it could be very poor quality food if I do consume. It's
yeah,
fast food because I'm not going to take the effort to eat healthy food.
yeah, and it's literally like a demon. Like that's your demon. That's causing you to
Right? It's a little
yeah,
gremlin. Feed me.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. My friend was cherries. He would eat like bushels after bushels of cherries, and yeah, he got diabetes. He got like pre-diabetic from cherries. Just like he couldn't
Mhm.
stop eating it,
Yes.
And his consume last.
Yeah.
He doesn't read
Right.
anything. He doesn't listen to anybody. So
So
yeah.
it's embarrassing. Like when you ask me, like, what is your ST routine? And you're like, there's a part of you that's like, I should be able to control this.
I feel like for your routine, I think you got the sleeping part right, and maybe the mental health part right.
Yeah.
And I don't, you didn't mention the exercise thing, so I don't know if you were doing the exercise because the exercise
I
is more.
hate
You hate it?
I hate exercising.
Okay. Um, that could be like the non. That's probably just like a you thing. Like you don't like to work out.
Yeah.
Like I feel
Yeah.
like it doesn't
I
matter.
know that's your profession, so I apologize if that sounded very FI, that it's not in my FI, or
It's
it was
fine.
just
No, it's fine. It's fine. Really. It doesn't bother me. Uh,
okay.
but like I have seen a pattern like where it's like it's not like a type thing. It's not like, oh,
Yeah.
someone's kinesthetic, therefore they want to exercise more. No, I've seen a lot of kinesthetic people hate exercise. So a
Yeah.
lot of people who are like a tester and their opposite is kinesthetic and they love working out, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's an attitude towards exercise.
Right.
I remember I was trying to get a coworker to start exercising and she just refused to work out. And I think she was like a NIFI, I think. But anyways, I remember I went up to her once and I flipped the script and I said, do you think I want to go to the gym? That's what I told her, right? I told her, I'm like, I'm a personal trainer and I hate exercise. I hate going to the gym. You know, I'm like, do you brush your teeth? Do you want to brush your teeth? No. But why do you do it? Oh yeah, you don't want cavities. So do you want osteoporosis? You know, that's how I flip it, right? Yeah, if you want osteoporosis, then you got to go to the gym. You got to lift some weights. You don't have to like it. I hate it. I dread going to the gym every time. I'm a trainer. And I can honestly tell you, I don't want to be in the gym. I freaking hate working out now. I've been doing it too long. It's boring now, you know? And it's tiring. It's exhausting. And, you know, I don't want to do it, but I just do it because it's the right thing to do. So, you know, then I go there. So, and after I told her that, she started going to the gym. And it's just like, it's just flipping the script. It's like, you don't have to like
Reverse psychology.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's like, because she thought it's like, I thought
you don't have to want to do it. Yeah. One time that I was the most successful for like a couple years walking every day, and then we went on a trip and I was the most fit that I've been. I took pictures of flowers and I put those on Facebook, and people would ask me if I didn't post a new flower. So I had to blast something to get myself as the cherry to walk. I don't know if that's blast really, but it was like I had to show. It was sort of, you know how if you go to the gym and somebody gives you the card and you're marking off that you've done the exercises and not wanting the empty spots. It was my Facebook folder was, okay, there has to be for every date a flower that proved that I had gone on a walk.
Oh, that sounds like a perfect system. Why did you just keep doing it? That sounds perfect.
I need to do it again. Yeah.
Last question for you. This is a fun one. Invasive thoughts. NE at the bottom.
Yes.
ISFJs and ISTJs are known to have invasive thoughts, and and it's chaos. When it comes out, it's chaos. Like Putin is a good example. ISTJ, he's an ISTJ, number 3, and then the NE comes out war, right? So that's like the end result,
bad,
right?
Yeah.
I know it's really bad. Like you need to let it out, otherwise this kind of stuff happens. It's like David Chan said, oh look at those ENFPs. They just blurt out all the most offensive things, and it's not like pent up because they just blurt it out. It's out, right? So, but for you guys, because it's a demon, it's stored, it's pent up. So when it comes out, it really causes damage. So can you talk about your relationship like with like invasive thoughts and like thinking about like really bad things and like trying to
especially in this job that I'm in, that's very stressful, and I have not succeeded at getting along with my colleagues great, or some clients will really bother me for reasons that I'm feeling like we're not being successful, and I have a thought that I want to kick people in the head. Now, I'm the kind of person, if I was going to fight you, I'd be like the Stooges. I can't kick you in the head. But I'll have that very aggressive thought. But I'm able to say, that's not really what I want to do. It's playful-ish. I mean, someone else might be like, God, that's awful. And I'm like, hey, I'm not doing it. I'm just thinking it.
Yeah.
I'm just like, or you're so stupid. Like, so some of the arrogant TI that I'm smarter than you, which who knows? Another friend with SETE was saying that they're able to see the spectrum of other people's T. I don't know if I'm smarter than you or less smart than you. And I also can't dumb things down very well. But that's the main intrusive thought is I'm going to kick them in the head.
It's funny you say that because I tell that to my girlfriend all the time. It's like, oh, this person's an idiot. I'm going to kick him in the head. But I do it on a regular basis. So it's like, it's not weird when it comes out because I always say I'm going to kick someone in the head. Right. So I think for you guys, you just have to verbalize it more often, and then it's like it's more okay. Like you just tell
my husband. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. That's perfect. Yeah, I want to kick this idiot in the head.
He knows who I'm mad at.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good that you have an
Yeah.
outlet, and I think that's all
Yeah.
that matters. As long as you have an outlet
Yeah.
for invasive thoughts, you're good, So
Yes. Yeah.
all right, sweet. So let's wrap up the
Thank
interview
you.
here. So thanks, Jane, for coming out and sharing more about your life, your story, your
Mhm.
type. And
Thank you so much for your time. That's awesome.
yeah,
And your service to the tribe.
yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, take care. Enjoy the
Okay.
rest of your
Take
evening.
care.
Bye-bye.
Yep. Bye-bye.